is a brochure that says life insurance for business. There are actually some other really good products that State Farm offers or suggests with businesses. The key person insurance is in here, but also what we see a lot is a buy-sell agreement. So let's say Jared and Cole want to be roofers, and obviously that's not a very good one-man job, so they're going to go into business together, they're partners. They might buy a buy-sell agreement on each other, stating that if Jared passes away, the money goes to Cole so that he can buy out Jared's portion so that Cole doesn't have to work with Jared's wife or family or whoever it might be. Does that make sense? So you're buying out the other person's share if something happens to them. We see that a lot more with small businesses because typically we have a lot of partnerships in small businesses. So that's something that we usually suggest. There goes, along with buy-sell agreements, there's a bunch of different stuff that you can do, cross-purchase, entity, and all of that is explained in here, but I'm not going to go too in-depth with it. Business property insurance is just what it says. It's the property you own as a business owner. We're going to insure that. So if you've got supplies, if you've got a building, if you've got equipment, all of those things are going to be insured under your business property. This is very important for you to go over with your insurance agent. A lot of my contractors, I have a lot of roofers, plumbers, electricians. I try to go with them every 12 months. Did you buy any new equipment? Did you get rid of anything? Did you upgrade anything? Can you give me kind of a brief tool list? I've got Excel spreadsheets on most of them that tell me, you know, I've got a bunch of hand saws. I have $1,000 worth of scaffolding, whatever. So I try to go over that with them once a year, because sometimes you just go out and buy a new excavator and you forgot to tell your insurance agent, because I'm probably not on the front of your mind. Unless you have a loan on it, then you have to call me. Your bank's going to want insurance. We're going to insure that business property for all types of different things, so we call those perils. If it gets stolen, if it gets damaged, burns up in a fire, basically anything but flood. Flood insurance is the only thing that covers flood, and we're not going to go there. That's a government program. So it has to be due to an accidental direct physical loss. It can't be intentional or purposeful on your part that you just misused your equipment and broke it. Now you want your insurance to replace it. It doesn't really work that way. It has to be accidental and direct physical loss. Does that make sense? Business interruption. Great coverage. It covers the loss of income if your business must be shut down because of a covered loss so that it may be restored. So let's say, like with the craft or photography type deal, most of those people are running the business out of their home, at least to start with. Let's say your home gets sucked up by a tornado or burned down by a fire, and now you can't operate because your equipment is gone, your home is gone, you're out of luck. Business interruption is going to help you stay afloat in the time. We're going to help you try to find a separate location to run your business out of at a time. Your business property is going to help you get your property back so that you can get your business up and running again in the shortest amount of time as possible. We know that that's going to cause a loss of income, so we're going to try to help and relieve some of that pressure for you. Yes?
Okay, so if you're doing this out of your home, like your example, not that it's going to, but what, do you need insurance then on your home because that's where they're having their home?
Yes. So we have a lot of business in the home. Business owners insured at State Farm. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. We typically recommend that you go with a full-blown business policy. You have homeowners insurance that covers your home because it's a personal dwelling. But let's say your home burned down and you didn't have business insurance. Typically your homeowner's policy is going to say, I'm only going to pay for a small portion of your business stuff because it's not personal. So those things need to stay very separate. Because your business entity is one thing and your personal self is another thing. And usually those lines don't cross very well. Does that make sense? Or are you still a little confused?
So the more expensive equipment you purchase for your business, that probably would not be covered in your homeowner.
So I'm going to give a real life example. We had a customer who wasn't home for a period of time. We'll just go with that. It was a goofy story. Somebody broke into his home while he was gone. and stole a whole bunch of tools out of his machine shed outside. He lived in the country. So he filed a claim with State Farm. We sent our adjuster out and kind of went through with him what types of items were missing, how much they cost to replace, etc. In the course of the conversation with the adjuster, he advised them that he needed those tools to be replaced as soon as possible because he used those tools to part out cars and sell them to make a living. So in State Farm's eyes, those were not personal items that he was just using for fun or recreation. They were business use items because he was making a profit for them. When that comes into play, typically your homeowner's policy, for example, State Farm's only pays $1,500 worth of business property at your home. He had way more than $1,500 worth of tools that were stolen, so he was a little bit upset that we didn't cover to replace them all because he was not using them for personal use, he was using them for business. Does that make sense? Automobile coverage. This is just what it says. It's covering your business automobile if something were to happen. I get a lot of questions of, what if I have a small business? My agent is one, so she used to have a Hummer. She doesn't have a Hummer anymore. She has a Charger. So she has a Dodge Charger. Her business bought that vehicle. It says State Farm all across the side of it. It's got her website and her phone number and all that, so you can see her driving down the road. It is a business use vehicle. So if she is driving that as a State Farm agent to come teach this class to you folks, and she is in an accident, business auto insurance is going to cover that. There's a lot of gray lines when it comes to cars, so I'm going to try to keep this simple, but she also uses her State Farm vehicle for personal use. So she might just use it to go to Omaha to go shopping, and that's okay, but you need to make sure that you are letting your insurance agent, whoever that may be, know exactly how you are using that vehicle, so that come the time of loss, we can tell you, we can make sure that you're covered from both ends. We have a customer right now who is an at-home business, and his business owns the vehicle, but he uses it for both personal and business use. So he uses it to deliver his products, but he also uses it to go visit and pick up his grandkids and do whatever personal activities he might be doing. If he is driving that vehicle as Jim, and he runs through a stop sign and he kills someone, that business owns that vehicle, but Jim is the driver. So XYZ business owns it, Jim is the driver. Jim can be sued as the driver because he himself was negligent or liable, and XYZ business can be sued because they own that vehicle. Does that make sense? So we needed to make sure when he came to us that we made sure that every angle was covered, because we don't want his business to be compromised for something he does personally, and vice versa. That's where I said there's a lot of gray lines. So it's just really important. You don't have to remember all of this. All I want you to remember is if you are driving a vehicle for business use, please make sure and tell your insurance agent that, so that they can make sure that you're covered from both angles. There are people, I've got an electrician who has a boom truck. Obviously, there is no reason for him to drive the boom truck to go do any personal business. He uses it to do his electrical work. That is strictly a business auto. It's in a whole different rate class. We don't have to worry about his personal use on that vehicle. Does that make sense?
So you're saying they would take two insurance policies out? One for personal,
No,
one for business?
it's just one policy that you take out on the vehicle, but it's how the insurance company classifies that vehicle when you insure it. So we need to know, because the first thing, so if Jared calls me and says, I was in an accident, I hit someone and I need to file a claim. I call into State Farm and file that claim for you. The first question they're going to ask me is this vehicle used in business or personal? And if I tell them business, and State Farm has listed that it's personal, they're going to start asking a lot of questions, and it could be something that wasn't covered because you weren't using the vehicle as we were rating it. Does that make sense?
Is it like a commercial vehicle?
It could be. There's just so many different types of insurance that you could use, but a commercial vehicle in State Farm's eyes is a boom truck or a dump truck. You know, those are types of vehicles. Those are an actual commercial vehicle policy. We don't have to worry about, you're not going to the grocery store to get groceries in your dump truck. You're using it in the course of business 100% of the time. But if you have a car and you are driving it to go take photographs somewhere, State Farm's gonna wanna know, are you driving this vehicle for personal or are you driving it for business? With State Farm specifically, we wanna know if 50% of the time or more you're driving that vehicle, is it used in business? Are we good on auto? I won't get into all the auto coverages, but if somebody has questions, please feel free to call me because I could talk another 30 minutes about that. Electronic data. This is a super important coverage in today's world because, as you all know, everything that we do is saved somewhere electronically. It didn't used to be a necessary coverage per se because people had paper. Nowadays, you store your payroll records, customer files, all types of different stuff electronically. Also, there are a lot of business who do things only electronically. So we have a customer who makes training videos is the best way. So at State Farm, every quarter I have to take bank training and I have to sit down at my computer and this screen comes up and it tells me all my different training and a lady talks over it and there's words on the screen and I have to click to go through it all. She makes those videos. Her job is strictly electronic. She basically has no paper. She owns a computer. That's her only business personal property, but she's worried about if something happens to that electronic data that she is saving for a customer, I want to make sure that that's covered. So that's where your electronic data coverage is going to come into play for her. That's a really big one. For the rest of you, it's still important because if you're saving anything on the computer, like I said, payroll, billing, taxes, who knows what else, all of that stuff is going to be paid to be recovered if available.
What about if business takes credit cards?
That would be covered under electronic data as well. It's a little bit different. I guess for me, it would have to be depend on what happened. So was it a business interruption that happened? You know, there was a fire and their credit card machine burned up, or, you know, the State Farm, for example, takes automatic payments, so that's stored as electronic data on our computer. Every month, we just automatically take your payment off. If all of that information disappears or is compromised, which seems to be a theme these days, that's another coverage that's going to be covered under electronic data. Does that make sense? Anything that's stored electronically for the use of your business. Questions? On the back side, because I tried to save paper today, is we're going to talk now about some insurances that you might want to consider for your employees. Workers' compensation is required by the state of Nebraska if you have employees. You don't get a say-so, I don't get a say-so, it's just the way that it works, it's the law. If you don't have work comp and you have a W-2 employee, you're going to be in trouble. I had a customer in my office the other day wanting to start a business, so he was going to talking to me about business insurance. His workers' compensation insurance was really expensive because of the type of business that he was going to be doing. So workers' compensation provides benefits to your employees for injuries and illnesses arising out of and in the course of employment. The state is requires this if you have any employees. So at State Farm, my boss has workers' compensation insurance. I sit at a desk all day, but if I were to get carpal tunnel or a really bad paper cut or fall down the stairs because I was doing work, her workers' compensation is going to pay for me to go to the doctor or the hospital, receive any type of medical care. Also, if like you're a painter, let's say, and you have employees and they become sick due to the fumes or whatever the case may be, they're going to have an illness arising out of the job that they did. It's going to pay for that as well. Workers' compensation is based on the job that you do or have your employees do. So we're going to ask, okay, Cole, what does John do for you? What does Susie do for you? What does Jim do for you? And each one of those persons' payroll, so how much do they make? Here's what your workers' compensation is going to cost you. So at State Farm, like I said, I fly a desk all day long. Workers' compensation for my boss is very inexpensive because the risk of something really bad happening to me while I'm working is very small. The guy who came in and talked to me last week about starting his own business wants to be a painter. He wants to hire employees. He's on ladders, he's painting houses, there's all kinds of bad stuff going on or possibilities there. So his workers' compensation is about 10 times the cost of what it is for me to sit at a desk. So we've got all kinds of different ways we can work that for him. Questions about workers' compensation?
What if you have like volunteers?
Volunteers are, if they're not a W-2 employee, so what a W-2 employee means is you write them a paycheck every month and you give them payroll. You take the taxes out of your check, out of their check, and take care of all of that. There are different types of employees you can have. We have some contractors who have what we call subcontractors. So, for example, we have a drywaller, and he is himself, and it's just him that owns his business. But it's really hard to do subcontract or to do drywall as a single person. Hanging drywall by yourself is not feasible. So he subs other people or asks Emily, hey, I really need some help today. Can you come work for me? But he's not writing Emily a paycheck. He's paying him. Emily has her own rate, going rate. Does that make sense? Am I getting too far in? This happens to me a lot. So volunteers don't fall under either one of those because you're not paying them. They're just volunteering their time. So they can't claim workers' compensation against you. Does that make sense? I mean, I suppose they could, but in another sense, then they're going to say, well, they weren't an employee of yours. They're not covered under your workers' compensation. Okay? Life insurance. That is something you might want to offer your employees as well. Group life insurance can either be 100% employer paid, in which case everyone must participate in the policy. Everyone has to have life insurance. It's not, you can say, I want Sid to have it and I want Kinsey to have it, but Jared, I don't think you're qualifying. I don't want to offer it to you. Doesn't work that way. If the employer is going to pay for it, you have to pay for everyone. The other option is to have it to be partially paid by the employee and partially paid by the employer. In that sense, it's voluntary whether or not the employees choose to partake. Life insurance, simple definition, pays if you pass away. We're going to pay whoever you write down on that piece of paper X amount of dollars if something happens to you if you pass away. I've seen it happen both ways. In a lot of employers, like the really big employers, will say we're going to pay $10,000 worth of life insurance for everyone. In that case, you all get $10,000. However, if you'd like to purchase an additional $50,000, that's your option, and we'll pay a portion of it, but you have to pay the rest. So then there's always that optional coverage. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. That life insurance is not required that you offer to your employees. It's an option. It's what we call a benefit. So when you go to work and you sign up for your benefit package, life insurance is typically one of those things they allow you to sign up for. Health or medical insurance includes medical insurance, vision insurance, dental insurance, and or disability insurance. Premiums are partially paid by the employer. I do know one employee whose employer pays 100% of it. That is not typical. It's going to pay for you and or your family. They don't have to cover your family anymore, or you as the employer do not have to cover your employee's entire family. But if you choose to offer medical insurance, it is optional typically for the employee, and you can choose whether to just cover them or at an added expense cover their children and or spouse. Questions on health or medical? Pension plans. I'm not licensed to talk to you about pension plans or 401ks. That's another thing I didn't list on here, but they kind of go hand in hand. But I'm just going to kind of give you a brief overview of what that means. This is your retirement fund. We don't see a lot of pension plans anymore. They've kind of gone away. Typically, employers will do a 401k for their employees, which means the employer contributes a certain portion and the employee contributes a certain portion. All that money goes into a common pool at the time of retirement. The employee then is able to take that money out and live off of it because they're no longer working. Does that make sense to everyone? As the employer, if you are self-employed, we also suggest that all of our self-employed people take out they call them a simple or a SEP plan. That's going to be your 401k as a business owner because nobody else is contributing to that, so the IRS rules work a little bit different when you're self-employed, but you're going to want to think about at some point, I don't want to work anymore. How am I going to make sure that I can still live at that point? So we typically suggest that you yourself as the employer takes out a simple or a SEP plan on yourself to plan for your own retirement. That makes sense to everyone? I did include a brochure here for business owners coverage form. It's just State Farm's general brochure. It talks about why State Farm. Like I said, we are all small business owners because we're contracted by State Farm, and gives some examples about some of the different coverages, what's covered, what's not covered, things you might want to think about, ways you can customize it so not every business needs all of the same coverages depending on what you're doing. Another thing you're going to want to visit with your insurance agent about is exactly what you're doing or what your concerns might be so that we can make sure that all of your concerns are covered, or whether we need to advise you that that might be something that you might want to self-insure or take upon the risk yourself. The next thing in your packet is a copy of our business owners policy coverages. It's just kind of a general, there's all kinds of different things you can add to this, but this is typically what we would see on a business owner's policy. Accounts receivable off premise. Debris removal is a big one that I talk to people about. Equipment breakdown we include on our policies. So if you are a screen printer, let's say you're making t-shirts, and your equipment breaks down, you can't make t-shirts anymore, we're going to pay for you to get that equipment. It's kind of like business interruption. If you have to go rent a machine from somebody else so you can continue your business, equipment breakdown is going to pay for that. Fire department service charge. If you have a fire and it is your fault, the fire department can charge you to come out and put out the fire. They don't always. We have had it happen. In 6 years I've worked at State Farm, we had one customer where the fire department did charge him to put out his fire because it was his own stupidity basically that the fire started. So they spent several hours putting it out. They charged him. Loss of income is a big one. So let's say there's a hurricane and your business cannot be operated, business interruption, all of those things. There's just no way for us to put you back in business right now because the whole city's a wreck. You're losing income. So we're going to pay for the actual loss sustained for 12 months. What that means is whatever you're actually losing during that 12 months, we're going to give you that because there's no way for us to put you back in business at this point. Does that make sense? Money is covered, so that's a big one. You might get robbed, you might, accidentally left your deposit in the car overnight and some hooligan broke the window out and stole your money. You've got checks in there and cash from money that you might have received from customers or sales. You want to make sure that that's covered. Those are things that are covered under your business property or your business policy. Outdoor property, I guess, is another one. If you've got stuff that's outside, that's usually covered separately, at least with State Farm. Signs is a big one I go over with customers who actually have an actual storefront. For example, our policy covers $2,500 worth of a sign. State Farm at our office, and that has two big red lighted awnings on either side of our buildings. They cost a lot more than $2,500 for her to put those signs up, so if they were to blow down, her business policy is not going to replace them. So I suggested to her when we did her business policy and she put the new awnings up that we increase that coverage to whatever it actually cost for her to put on there. So you're going to want to review these coverage in specific with your agent when it's time for you to have business insurance because it's very important to know what is and isn't covered. Does anyone have any questions of things that I didn't cover? Like I said, I could go on and on and on, but I want to make sure if you've got a specific business question for whatever you're doing, I don't really know what everyone's needs are, but I'm open for questions at this point because I don't have much else.
If you're like having your business out of your home and most of this is covered under your home, do you have to recover it?
I would. You think that it might be covered under your home, but it may not be because, like I said, you're operating a business out of your home. Insurance companies like to see those two things separately because a business risk is a lot different than a personal risk. So just speaking in liability or the dollar amount of things that you might have are a whole lot different. So State Farm is going to charge you differently on a business policy than they are on your homeowner's policy. And insurance companies get kind of funny if we're not properly rating you because you were not truthful. So we can come back and say, sorry, Sydney, you didn't tell me that you were running a business out of your home, so this, and this are not going to be covered. We have a lot of business in the home policies. They're typically a little bit cheaper because you don't need to cover a building. You might not have a sign. There might be some things that don't apply to you. So like I said, it's very important when you get to the point of, all right, I'm officially starting this business. I need to go talk to an insurance professional. You might come in and I might tell you it's going to cost you $500 a year. That's really inexpensive for business insurance, but you're a really low risk. If you count for that monthly, you only have to sell a few products to pay for that. It's fine. On the other hand, if you're opening a business and you've got $1 million building and signs and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, that's going to cost you a lot more money, but we need to know all of those types of things. So just being open and honest with your insurance agent is what I can tell you is number one. I have business owners that have been in business for years and years and they still don't know all of this stuff. That's what we're here for. I'm the specialist to help you with those things. You don't have to remember exactly what's covered. I'm just trying to give you a general overview. If you've got questions, you just got to ask. It happens all the time. I just had a customer come in the other day, he's an electrical contractor. He said, well, I'm bidding a job and they want all of these specific insurance things. What do I have? I don't even know what's covered. So we kind of went over that. He was fine. We didn't have to change anything. Not a big deal. Anyone else?
And it doesn't cost anything to talk to Shayla or any agent.
It's free. I will help you anytime. My number, I did stick my business card in all of your guys' red folders. If you just have general business questions, you don't have a business yet, but you're like, I don't understand this, or what if I do this? Please feel free to call me. Yeah.
So if we have like a question on paper to start a policy or to like ask questions about it, would we contact the agent or you?
You would contact me. State Farm operates a little bit differently than most insurance companies. So if you go to another insurance office, let's say in town, everyone there is considered an agent. According to the state of Nebraska, I am a licensed insurance agent. State Farm doesn't allow me to call myself that, so I'm a licensed team member or an account representative. I'm fully licensed in all things insurance except for securities products, so we won't go there, but you call me. If you call my office and ask to talk to Annette, she's going to transfer you to me anyways. So you can just call and ask for Shayla. That's me. I'll answer any questions that I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you, I'll get back to you, I'll hang up the phone and I'll call our corporate company and get the correct answer for you. Everybody's business is a little different, so I might not be an expert in your exact field, but I will try my best to find the best answer I can for you. Anyone else have a question?
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That scared me.
I tried to keep things really simple. I was glad that Susan sent me that sheet, because I was like, I don't know, I could talk about insurance for hours. Laura would like to know exactly what I'm supposed to tell them. And keeping in mind that, like I said last time, I was talking to the business owner. Right. Yeah. Yep. Well, I'll leave that bag here for you. If the other students want to take those, please feel free. I don't need them, so. Anything else you need from me, let me know.
I will.
I told Susan I don't mind doing this at all. So I told Annette, Doris wants to know if you can do this.
I need to
She's
get your
like,
pictures. Oh, yeah.
usually in our office.
I have stuff on
some months.
All right.
You're
You're like I take copious notes.
Yeah, and then I summarize them.
You'll get these back. I'm just gonna make copies of them, then you'll get them right back. And then I need to get pictures of you. I didn't realize. I'll probably just take them at your desk with your name tag right in front of you. And,
Okay, and that's kind of how the speakers will go. Typically, we only have one speaker. We have another time that has a couple speakers, but typically we only have one speaker because we save that last hour for your mentor. But, you know, not knowing for sure what your business is, that last hour, today we brought in the second speaker, so, yeah, Sydney.
For example, like the Red Apple,
Okay?
they have different businesses inside their facility.
Mhm.
So would the businesses inside your building have to get insurance
For themselves, yes.
for their spot or for the whole facility?
Okay, so the question is on insurance, and Shayla didn't mention that, but you take out renter's insurance, just like if you were renting an apartment. If you're renting an apartment, you don't own the physical building, but you own what's inside of it. So if you're renting a building as a business, you would take out insurance on what you physically have in that building. And then as the owner of the building, I take out insurance on the building itself. So that's how that's worked. Another thing that she didn't mention is it's called inland marine insurance. And you go, marine, that sounds like ocean. We're not close to the ocean. Well, inland marine means transportation. So what that does is, remember I said I did wholesale brushes? Now, I have tens of thousands of dollars worth of brushes. I have over 10,000 different brushes, and some of them are as expensive as $25, $50 a brush. So when I go to shows, I need to have that insured. So I have inland marine insurance. And I had to use that one time. I was in Kansas City. Luckily I had set up for the show, parked the van in the parking lot at the motel, which was literally across the street from the show building. And the next morning, get up and head to go eat before the show started, and the van was gone. And when my parents always went with me, so when my husband and father came back to the motel room and said, you know, the van's not in the parking lot, I said, oh, go get it. You know? And it took me a minute to realize what they were saying. And somebody had broken the window and had, you know, taken it. Our fortunate part of the van was the gas gauge didn't work past half. So we always knew when it hit half that it was, you know, actually on empty. Well, so when they got into the van and they saw a half a tank of gas, they thought they had a half a tank of gas. So they ran out of gas, and 6 months later we got the van back. And typically what they were doing, because the police said, you know, you probably will never see it, because what they do is they hijack vans and they take them, it was a suburban type of van, and they take it down to Mexico and sell it. Well, they didn't get that far. But our inland marine insurance covered our loss. Not just the van loss, but the loss of our product inside of that. But if you don't have that coverage, anything off premise is not insured. So contractors will have inland marine insurance because they take their tools and equipment to the site, right? That's off their premise, so they have to have inland marine insurance. So that's what that is for. You still have 45 minutes. No, we have 35 minutes left. So I'm going to talk quickly about coverage, and Susan's going to walk around and take your
I'm
pictures.
just gonna take a quick shot just so that Doris has which comes to your school, and she might be looking in the study hall or wherever she might be looking, she'll be able to take it.
Can I still send in a scene?
Yes, you can send in the
yeah.
senior picture, yeah. I'm coming at that, you know, angle, you know, the selfie angle. And when you guys send pictures in, no duck face selfies, please. I won't replace your picture with one of those.
Okay, so I think you've kind of got the gist. I start every Saturday. We'll talk about the topic of the day. Any homework you have not already turned in, you'll turn that in. We have a speaker, then we'll take a little break. Break includes, you know, our donut refreshments, and then the last hour is with the mentors. Your responsibility and ground rules is attendance. We expect you to be here unless you've told us ahead of time that you have a school activity. Absenteeism is recorded, and just like work, unexpected absenteeism, if you don't tell us you're going to be gone, is frowned upon. Punctuality, we start at 9 o'clock. As today, the speaker was here, ready to start at 9. We will start at 9 o'clock, so be here a little bit ahead of time. We do anticipate, or do expect you to participate in our discussions. Everything that's said in the room, about your businesses, is confidential. So you have a new tool or a product that you want to develop, and you don't want everybody else to know about it in the world, it is confidential. Nothing said about your business do not leave outside this room. Okay, so everything that's said in here about your product, your idea, what you're thinking, stays in the room. Do anticipate that you should listen, and you did very well listening to the speakers today. Read your homework assignments. They're not long, they're very short chapters, very down to earth. So we expect you to, it's not, in your school, you have time at the end of the class to maybe do your homework, to do your reading. College classes are not that way. That's outside the Saturday. Worksheets, activity sheets, worksheets are worth 5 points. They're color-coded. Activity sheets are worth 10 points. Again, they're color-coded. This is tan. This is ivory. This is buff. Project sheets are gold. They're worth 20 points. The project sheets, other than the first one, is building your business plan. This is a safe environment to experiment. Experiment ideas. Experiment your business, your thoughts. Always be ready to ask questions. I believe these were pretty well covered today. Why do you want to start your business? Tom talked about why, pros and cons of starting a business. Personal financial health. If you can't keep your own personal checkbook, and I'm talking as an adult, I work with a lot of businesses. They come to me, and just the other day, I had a business said, I make $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Is that net or gross? That's net. So you've grossed 70 or 80, and you netted 40 or 50? Yep. And you want to borrow 26? Yes. What did you do with that $40,000 and $50,000? If you've been in business for 3 years and you have netted, means that's profit after expenses. Where is it? And we talked, and he explained, and I said, okay. He's wanting to buy a new business, add on to his current business, and has spent that money to replace tools and equipment for the new business. But as a financial person, that was kind of hard to swallow. Your financial health is as important as your personal physical health. I'm a very healthy person, right? All of you are very healthy people, right? Well, your financials need to be as healthy as you are physically as healthy. Especially when you want a bank or somebody else to say, will you give me, because he's buying this business for about $125,000. And he has to put $25,000 down. Down means he has to show that he's got some skin in the game. But if I can't take care of my personal finances, and I'm always overdrafting my checking account, and I'm always behind on paying my phone bill or my utility bill, and you come to me and you want me to put money into your business? and you haven't shown me that you can financially take care of a personal account, I'm not gonna be too excited about doing that, right? So that's why we need to make sure that, everything is healthy. And then in here, we're gonna ask you what your goals are. Personal goals and business goals. That's one of your assignments that's coming up. What are your personal goals? What are your business goals? And for you, they may be totally different. But your personal goals should kind of, or your business goals should kind of relate to your personal goals. If you personally say, by the time I'm 35, I'd like to be self-efficient and have all my debts, which your debts are going to be probably your schooling, your education, covered. Personal goals need to include people around you, not just yourself, but your family. As adults, family can include children, your health. How much do you exercise? How well do you eat? And you go, well, why do you care how well I eat? Because that health plays part of your business. If you're not healthy, mentally, physically, in being able to endure, the first time you run into a roadblock, and I will guarantee you every business runs into roadblocks, and you go, I physically can't do this anymore, I'm mentally exhausted, I'm burned out, you're going to quit. And that's what we want to prevent, is that you can, hit those roadblocks, maybe step back, maybe reevaluate, but you continue on. Friendships, relationships should be thought of with your goals. Your further education. You may want to do a career and work into employment. Goals, your goal right now might be that you get a car, or you get a $500 phone, or you get something. Later, home ownership, starting your business, travel. Those all can be part of your goals, and there's nothing wrong with any of those. Okay, we've talked about that. Shayla had her State Farm shirt on, right? Kind of casual. You won't see her that casual at work, but this is Saturday morning. But she still had her State Farm shirt on. Pardon? Promotion. Yeah, exactly. Self-promoting. And we'll talk more about that later. What makes a successful entrepreneur? Number one, passion. Did you see the passion that Tom talked about when he got into it, how passionate? Have any of you had him, Gox, take any photos for you? He used to do sports all the time. Yep. My family, I have, at that time, she was born, when was she born? She was born in April. So at Christmas time, she would have been about 9 months. And then I had a 4-year-old granddaughter. And he is so good. He got them engaged. I mean, they just, he's such a good photographer for little kids. And even for us adults, but, he just is very good. Such passion. Persistence. Those roadblocks are critical, that you're persistent. I already talked about good health, communications. We'll spend some more time about listening and oral and written communications. Those are critical. How many of you use complete sentences when you're texting on your phone? Yeah, depends on who it is. To your friends? No. To maybe a teacher or to your boss? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Knowing when to use, proper communications and what that is. Being creative, got a lot of creativity going here. How many of you would say you're self-confident? Not everybody raised their hands, and I'm not surprised because I can tell by your mannerisms how much you are and are not. But that we can work on as well. I had a quick story on that one. Remember I said I did middle school camps? Well, before camps I did middle school programs. And so I'd take a week from middle school, 4th, 5th, 6th, and the school would give me a week to work with them. And so their English assignments, their math assignments, their social studies assignments, all of those assignments were entrepreneurial based for that week. And they did a product and we sold it at the end of the week. I had one young man that I just could not get through. He just, he just sat there like this and just would not interact, wouldn't do anything. And I said to his teacher, I says, I'm just having tough time getting through with this kid. And she said, well, she talked to him, and she did, and it's still not much interaction. And he did a drink for his business. So he took, like 7-Up and Powerade and blended them together, and that was his drink. Of course, we had to measure everything out. We had to make sure what the ingredients were. We went through the whole thing. And at the end, he sold out. And so at the end, I always give out certificates of accomplishment. And he came up, and I says, you made it. Grin from ear to ear. The first time he ever felt successful in doing anything. Now, he was a 4th or 5th grader. Fast forward, now he's a 9th grader. We have career day up to the college, and of course I always have a booth because entrepreneurship is a career. And he came up to me and he says, I bet you don't remember me. I says, oh yeah, I remember you. I said, what you doing? He says, I have my own business. I says, great, what are you doing? I said, I'm mowing lawns and trimming. That one key success and the reason he wasn't talkative and quiet was he was afraid that he would not be successful. And once you show that you are successful, and you can be, whether it's selling pop mix, whether it's doing lawnmowers, or whether it's starting a multi-million-dollar business and you don't know is that key for success. Get you a long ways. Self-confidence and hard work. Rewards, I think Tom talked about most of those. Risk, Tom talked about those too. He didn't stress, that, yeah, you can, take a Thursday afternoon and go watch your kid play soccer, but he didn't talk about the weeks that he would spend 60 and 70, especially when he first started, 60 and 70 hours. Remember I said we had our pictures taken right after Christmas? They came in on a special Saturday to show me the pictures and to work with me. One picture I thought looked funny. It looked like my granddaughter had a hat sitting on top of her head. I said, you cropped her head, it doesn't sit right. And they said, we really didn't crop it, but now that you pointed it out to us, it's hard not to see that. They redid the whole, that picture. I'd ordered some, different sizes. They redid each one of those and gave them to me. Didn't have to. That's going above and beyond and working those extra hours. Why do businesses fail? Management usually. Working with people, don't know how to work with people, don't know how to manage the behind the scenes part of the business. Not having a business plan. Not listening to customers,